In 1927, 1950, 1966, and 1974, devastating overland flooding and shoreline erosion occurred in the South Basin. The social and economic costs of these events were huge. Damaged homes, businesses, and cottages, massive erosion, and loss of tourism, fishing, and other income.
Well, the lake has always been viewed as a source of great resource for the people around it for a multitude of reasons. But it's also been a problem for the people living around the lake because of the erosion and because of high water and wind events. Erosion is driven by wave energy. Now, erosion has many factors that affect it, including the shoreline type, the soil type, the topography, whether there's vegetation on the shoreline, soil moisture. The water level also affects erosion, but erosion is driven by waves. If you didn't have the waves and the energy coming in, then you wouldn't have erosion. So it's been a problem around Lake Winnipeg forever. There's highways north of Gilwell that have been rerouted because of erosion, and that happened long before Lake Winnipeg regulation was in place.
Public calls for federal and provincial government action to reduce flood impacts around the lake went back to the early 20th century. In the wake of another devastating flood in 1950, the Manitoba government established the Lakes Winnipeg and Manitoba Board to study the issue. Their comprehensive 1958 report concluded that regulation of the lake for flood control purposes alone was impractical and not cost-effective at that time. But they did say that regulation of Lake Winnipeg could be a benefit for the development of hydroelectric power sites along the Nelson River. Construction began on a series of channels to improve outflow of the lake into the Nelson River system. 2 Mile Channel provides an additional outlet for Lake Winnipeg water to flow into Playgreen Lake, especially during the winter months, when ice can restrict the outflow of water at the natural outlet at Warren Landing. The 8 Mile and Ominowin bypass channels, along with numerous other channel improvements, help keep Lake Winnipeg water moving down the Nelson by bypassing natural restrictions such as rapids and shallow channels. 100 kilometers downstream from the lake outlet is the Genpeg generating station and control structure. Built on the Nelson's west channel, Genpeg controls the flow of this additional water into Cross Lake and on downstream to Hydro's power plants. Finally, the Kiskatoo Dam was built to prevent water from backing up into Kiskatoo Lake, creating a natural preserve. When operating at maximum discharge, the regulation works allow up to 50% more water to flow out of Lake Winnipeg when compared to its pre-regulated state. What Lake Winnipeg regulation has not stopped, and was never designed to stop, is shoreline erosion and damage from extreme weather. In October 2010, the province of Manitoba experienced what's been called a weather bomb. A major system brought heavy rain, sustained high north winds, and the lowest barometric pressure ever recorded in the province. The sustained north winds resulted in a major wind setup and large waves in the South Basin, causing major damage to public infrastructure and private property. Wind setup occurs when winds push water up against the downwind shoreline. A corresponding wind set down is produced at the upwind end of the lake. These localized changes to water levels happen even though the average, or wind-eliminated level of the lake remains unchanged. During the weather bomb, the wind setup recorded at Victoria Beach and Gimli in the South Basin was almost 5 feet above the wind-eliminated level, with wave action on top of that. Correspondingly, Montreal Point in the larger North Basin experienced a wind set-down of almost 3 feet. Manitoba Hydro uses data from 8 Environment Canada monitoring stations around Lake Winnipeg to calculate the lake level on a daily basis. Measurements from these stations are averaged to create the wind-eliminated level used for regulation operation and licensing purposes.